News with swearing. Daily beans, daily beans. Daily beans, daily beans.
Hello and welcome to the Daily Beans for Tuesday, July 22nd, 2019. Today in the news, a police officer suggests Ocasio-Cortez should be shot. India rebuffs Trump. The protests in Puerto Rico. Mueller preps for testimony this week. And employees of an ad agency air concerns about marketing for Customs and Border Patrol. I'm your host, AG, and with me today are Jaleesa Johnson.
Hello.
And Jordan Coburn.
Hello.
Hey guys, so, it's Mueller's big day tomorrow.
Yeah, is it Mueller Eve? Not quite, right?
Well, this comes out tomorrow.
Okay, so it is Mueller Eve.
It's Mueller
hearing Eve, yes.
Yeah. He'll be testifying before the House Intelligence and Judiciary Committees. We'll be going over expectations in more detail during tomorrow morning's episode. We don't expect him to reveal anything groundbreaking. This is mostly about getting an elevated voice on television to refute the lies that have been coming out of the White House and Trump's Justice Department, namely William Barr, our intrepid Attorney General. So that's happening. But today, we learned, though, that the Department of Justice has communicated with Mueller, saying that they expect him to limit his testimony to the findings of the report, and anything outside of the report is subject to explicit immunity, which I don't know what that is. And he's a private citizen, guys. He's not subject to their demands, but we expect he's going to do that anyway. So
right. I liked his response. He said, I'm going to try my best to do that, or I'll do it as much as possible.
Right.
Which actually makes me a little optimistic that
you're going to
might
talk about something else.
Now that they're saying you can't say it, I bet he's like, you can't fucking tell me what to do. I'm Robert Swan Mueller the third.
Motherfucker. I'm kind of hoping that's
he
what
turns
he's
like an
thinking.
origami.
What?
Yeah.
I'm a private citizen.
Levels
what?
Up.
Are you witness tampering right now? Is that what you're doing? Are you obstructing justice? Damn, I wish there was an investigation into that.
Right? He hates bad guys.
He does. He really hates bad guys, especially justice obstructors. That goes for him to the core of the things that protect our judicial system.
This could all be like a comic book. You got the squad, justice obstructors are the villains, Mueller's the hero. Yeah, this is amazing.
Totally Comic-Con. That's exactly why we had that here. But no, you're totally right. And I honestly think that they're doing it. Remember when Sekulow came out and said, we've decided not to try to stop Robert Mueller from testifying, even though they can't. It was just sort of they have to
like
feel
a flex.
Like they have control.
Yeah.
To feel like they have some semblance of control. Maybe they're telling Trump, look, we told him, buddy. We told him. And I just feel like that's what they're doing. They're saying,
Trump. Don't
go outside your report. And Mueller's like, that's what I said I was going to do, but thanks. It just seemed like a...
Yeah, it's like a weird humble brag based on no facts whatsoever.
Right. Look, he stayed on his report. We told him to do that.
Right. Don't forget who's really in charge kind of move.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think it's going to work with
It's
Mueller.
a sad dick energy move.
Sad dick energy. That's right.
For sure. So anyway, we learned that they communicated with Mueller, and a spokesperson for Mueller has said that he has prepared an opening statement that he has not shared with the Justice Department. But I'm certain, again, he won't be wandering into any territory outside of his report, at least not much. Maybe dip a toe.
It starts off like, yo, this is for my haters.
Yeah. Yo, bitch, you obstructed justice. Drop the mic. What? Walk out, big arms,
I love it.
That'd be
in my dreams.
My dream
yeah,
come
exactly. Only a fantasy.
Yeah.
That will not happen. Please do not expect anything like that. You
Don't
are probably all going to be very disappointed in this testimony. Don't be. It's exactly what he's been clear about it. He's not our hero. I mean, he's a rad dude.
He is a rad dude.
But, he's going to stay, I think, on his report. And I think, we'll talk a little bit tomorrow morning about what questions we think he should be asked and how to ask him, because that's going to be very important.
Right. And we should do a thread on how not to be disappointed Wednesday, because you don't have to be. You really don't. No. You can accept the fact that he's doing justice, even if he just talks about the report.
Yeah. It'd be like going to the DMV and expecting to be helped in 10 minutes. Don't set yourself up for failure.
Come on. This is all for the greater good.
It is. And that is the whole point here, and this is what we're excited about, is that there will be a voice on TV that has the elevation at least as high as William Barr, maybe as high as Trump, that counteracts or contradicts these absolute falsehoods that have been coming out, particularly from William Barr. And, of course, Mr. No Collusion himself. And Trump continued to escalate his attacks on the 4 congresswomen of color, known as the Squad, calling them a racist group of troublemakers, flabberty-flee, who are young, inexperienced, and not very smart.
He always says that about brown women.
Yes, always. Low IQ or whatever. And he says
unqualified.
He says, look, they were against humanitarian aid at the border. They voted against humanitarian aid at the border, insinuating that because they wanted to put speculations or stipulations in the humanitarian aid bill that made sure the money went to helping the children, that means they voted no on sending aid to the border instead of just funding concentration
Right, he's talking
camps.
to his base who won't look into the details.
They don't know, and they don't care.
Unfortunately, also anyone that doesn't look into the details, which is what makes it extra dangerous. It's not even just his base. It's the people that would hear that and be like, well, okay, well, I guess I believe what people say.
Yeah, but if you think one of his supporters is like, I really like the economy the way that it's going. I really like my jobs that I have to have, all 4 of them. But, it bothers me what's going on at the border because, I'm a quote-unquote Christian or because I love thy neighbor, or et cetera, et cetera. So anyone who is a supporter of his that this has been bothering, they can now glom onto this statement that it's the squad who voted against sending humanitarian aid to those kids, even though Trump is the one who created the conditions in the first place.
Right. And this is why critical thinking is so important. Education. If people were just taught to think independently or just critically, this wouldn't even be a problem.
Oh, why do you think we have Betsy DeVos as education secretary?
Oh my goodness.
The worst
Don't
thing,
even get me started.
The worst thing for Trump is an educated electorate. That's the very worst thing.
Yeah. Well, and the aid bill becomes even more problematic when you think about the new rule that they're thinking about instituting, where people can only come over and seek asylum if they've come directly from Mexico, essentially, and haven't passed through any other country. Mm-hmm. Because now it's that's going to dramatically cut down the number of migrants that are at the border seeking asylum. And on top of that, you have all of this aid that was not earmarked for certain things, like specifically addressing the needs of the children at the border.
Right.
I wish that one of the arguments in court, like if you're an asylum seeker and you came from Honduras or somewhere in the Northern Triangle and you traversed through Mexico and tried to seek asylum and they blocked you because you didn't come directly from a country bordering the United States. I wish you could say something like, but according to Trump, there are 3 Mexicos. And I came from one of the 3 Mexicos.
They'll just lock you up for being sassy. But I agree with you. I wish it were that simple.
Isn't that a presidential declaration? There are now 3 Mexicos?
I guess so. He said it.
I think he gets around that by saying it doesn't border the United States. But dang it, that'd be a fun argument.
There's going to be an entire jail full of geniuses that have been jailed for their brains. It's going to be literally a think tank.
Nice.
Down at the southern border think tank today. And there's going to be some more news about border and immigration rules a little bit later. But guys, we have a lot of headlines, so let's hit the hot notes. Hot notes. All right, guys, let's start with a headline. Louisiana police officer on Facebook says Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez needs a round. So, Julissa, what's going on with this story?
Yeah, it's so sad because I'm from Louisiana, but I remember it's pretty racist. This officer was named Charlie Rispoli. He posted on Facebook last week about AOC saying, quote, "This vile idiot needs a round, and I don't mean the kind she used to serve," basically saying that she should be shot. And he was commenting on an article titled Ocasio-Cortez on the budget, we pay soldiers too much. But the thing is, this website is a satire website called Taters Gonna Tate, only this guy was too stupid to realize it. Actually, on their website, it even says everything on this website is fiction. It is not a lie, and it is not fake news because it is not real. If you believe it's real, then you should have your head examined. So I guess that's what the police department's doing now. It's like the Greta
So they examined
district.
his head.
They're examining his head,
Okay.
and the police chief said, quote, "I will tell you this. This will not go unchecked. I'm not going to take this lightly, and this will be dealt with on our end."
And this just breaking, they were both fired. The cops were fired. One the cop who posted it and one guy who liked it.
Wow.
They were just fired. It
This is
just came
beautiful.
in.
Just
Yeah.
like the
Cool.
16 Philadelphia police officers who were fired for racist stuff on Facebook. That's what I'm talking about.
Fire
Accountability.
these fuckers. Yeah.
Fire them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep, I don't think people are going to stand for this much longer. Not
No.
with the racial tensions that are going on. Or at least they've always been going on, but I think I feel like they're coming to a head.
Yeah. We're canceling bullshit.
Yeah. Bullshit is canceled. If you
In
don't
some
like
cities.
you probably stay because we're all citizens.
Justice coming to a city near you.
I love it. That could be our next sketch. Hey.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Also this Monday, headline reads, India pushes back against Trump's offer to mediate Kashmir dispute. And everyone, the lie detector test says that is a lie, right? Pretty much he didn't do this. Jordan, what's going on?
Yeah, so in the Kashmir region, which is a region that both India and Pakistan claim basically control over the entirety of the land, and it's a conflict that has been going on for decades and decades and decades. Trump is trying to now insert himself into it and saying that, hey guys, I'll step in and I'll help you figure it all out. To which they basically responded, nobody asked you. So that's...
I know more than the Indians. I know more than Kashmir. I wear cashmere, and I am a cashmere expert.
Yes, he said, I'm going to help you all mediate the dispute, is what he was offering. And the Indian Ministry of External Affairs spokesperson said, we have seen Donald Trump's remarks to the press that he is ready to mediate, if requested by India and Pakistan, on Kashmir issue. No such request has been made by the Prime Minister to the U.S. President.
In other words.
That. He's like, I can help you guys out. And they're like, nah.
Yeah, it's going to be a no for me,
So
dog.
in sketch or nah?
Yeah,
nah.
yeah.
Oh, Randy, nice. It's going to be a no for me, dog.
Yeah.
We should just literally have the old Paula Abdul, Randy, and Simon, like, deciding, like, just have Trump, like, that should be his policy, foreign policy board.
We're like them, right? I'm not Randy because I'm black. I think I'm actually Paula. I think you're Randy,
I think so,
Jordan.
too.
Yeah, you're clearly Simon.
I'm clearly
Angie.
Simon.
Yeah, so we could just do it, on our own.
Look, that was awful.
All right. If you're telling me I'm
My ears
I'm
are
a big, strong
bleeding.
black man.
It's a no for me, dog.
It's because you're cool.
But yeah, it's Trump is just blatantly lying. Apparently, he told reporters in the Oval Office during a meeting with Pakistani Prime Minister Imran Khan that India basically had asked him to mediate the decades-long dispute, and it's quite.
Oh, he said they asked him to.
Yes, he said that they asked them to, which prompted the response, "No, we didn't." So,
Basically, yeah.
Yeah, my beans are on none of that mediation happening with Donald Trump.
Why does he interject in things that like people don't want him to? Because like I want him to interject in other
because
things
he has
and he
foreign
doesn't.
interests, I'm sure, that relate to that conflict.
It's a small dick energy thing. Who was it? George Carlin said about. He talked about war, like men wanting to go and play with their toys in the sand, and how if you notice that all the bombs and the rockets and the bullets are all shaped like dick, it's the subconscious desire to insert the penis into other people's affairs. It's called fucking people over, or
For
something
sure.
like that.
Yeah.
I think that he just wants to insert himself everywhere. And
Right.
Now I have gross
It's
images
so
in my
true.
head.
It's disgusting. Yeah.
Let's get your mushroom out of here. And hundreds of thousands of protesters have hit the streets in Puerto Rico. It's been building for the last 2 weeks. Embattled Governor Ricardo Rosario, he says he's not going to resign. They've been calling for him to resign, but he did say, I'm going to step down as the leader of the new Progressive Party, and that he would not seek re-election. But many viewed that announcement as insulting, and it's obviously fueling these massive protests. So what kicked all this off? 2 weeks ago, some really offensive transcripts of private chats between Rosario and his allies were leaked to the media. In these chats, he referred to a councilwoman as a whore. He made homophobic comments about Ricky Martin. He said the mayor of San Juan was off her meds and that he was salivating to shoot her. And he also joked about the corpses that were piling up after Hurricane Maria.
I didn't know the details of the emails. That's incredible.
Yeah, it's like a chat room, like a private chat room.
Yeah, messages, yeah.
Sound like, I don't know. Yeah, hey, tell you what, next time, leave the conversation. If that,
Yeah,
just spaceman goodbye.
He has left the conversation. Yeah.
Rosario has left the conversation. Poof, you're good to go.
Right.
He stayed in, and I think he was actually kind of trying to lead these conversations. But
Oh, definitely.
just talking his ass off, and they got leaked to the public, and now hundreds of thousands of Puerto Ricans are demanding that he resign, and he's not going to, he says, and now they're really mad, and so that now the protests, like pretty much everyone in Puerto Rico is out in the streets protesting.
Yeah,
it's really amazing to see.
This whole scandal is just helping Trump's agenda because he's the one that was saying that Puerto Rican officials are corrupt, and now this guy is like not even stepping down like immediately, like he's just gonna stay, like proving his point, like
Yeah.
kick them while them down, right? Like that's like they just got through the worst hurricane ever, right?
Trump probably doesn't even think it's part of the United States. So
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
he's
like,
whatever goes on in these other countries, these other shithole countries, I don't even know. You know,
Yeah.
he probably just doesn't even realize that it's his.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and he thinks he did his part by going there and throwing paper towels out to people like T-shirt cannons.
Yeah, I remember
That's
that.
right.
Fucking gross.
So yeah, that's pretty amazing down there. They're very peaceful protests. Everyone's, they're angry, but they're not. You know, it's not a mob or anything like that. They're all in solidarity. Even Trump has said this guy's got to go. Like, there's nobody who's
Actually on his
who's
side.
on this guy's side.
Yeah, yeah.
And there's a lot of celebrities that are in on it now.
Mm-hmm.
I saw Rosie Perez come out and speak on it, and Ricky Martin, of course, because he's involved. But
Yeah, he'd probably be involved
Indirectly
regardless.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
That's just crazy.
Yep.
I like Ricky.
Me too.
Yeah.
So we will keep you posted on what's going on in Puerto Rico. Then we have a headline from the Washington Post: Trump administration to expand its power to deport undocumented immigrants. And this is what I was hinting at earlier, Jordan. This new strategy is set to go into effect today, Tuesday, and it will fast-track deportation by bypassing immigration judges and hearings. So previously, immigrants without documentation who were in the United States that did not have a pending asylum case or an immigration court date could only be eligible for expedited removal if they were apprehended within 100 miles of the border, and they had to have been here for less than 2 weeks. The new rule would apply to anyone anywhere in the U.S. for fewer than 2 years. And the ACLU plans, they have a lawsuit locked and loaded, cocked and loaded, ready to go, saying that this rule effectively removes due process for these people, and this will lead to increased racial profiling, according to a lot of people. It will turn ICE into a show me your papers militia, so to speak. So that rule starts to go into effect tomorrow. Well, today.
I mean, even the rule that exists already is like a violation of due process, it seems.
Well, I think what they sort of base it on is they just got here and they aren't supposed to be here, so we can expedite deportation. But if you've been here for 2 weeks or you've established any kind of a home here, then that may be where they were drawing the line for due process, which is weird because I figured it's like, but I guess some people were like, you can't just have due process the minute you get here, but I don't understand why not.
Yeah, I don't understand any of this, but I appreciate the reporting. I just think it's so crazy that we're in this position. And then also I think Trump was trying to do some kind of deal with the Honduras government and make it so that migrants could stay there or stay in like a neighboring country instead of coming to America. But like, wouldn't they stay there if they could? Like, does he think they just want to keep walking because America is so welcoming right now? It's like a last resort, right?
Yeah.
At this point, like if I were, from that area, I wouldn't come here just because it's a great place right now.
Because we built our reputation on welcoming those who yearn to breathe free. That's what America's supposed to be for.
And a fucking American dream and all this rhetoric that we peddle out incessantly. It's like, what the fuck do you think was going to happen? You sit there like blasting yourself out as this the best country in the world, and then you get
in a contest no one else entered.
Exactly. Shout out to Tamara.
And meanwhile, exactly, Tamara. Meanwhile, you're yanking the aid from these countries, the Northern Triangle.
And that's like a big part of it. And then
creating
also,
a crisis.
Yeah, even if these people they hear the news and they know Trump doesn't want them. Because I went to Guadalajara last year and people out there knew they weren't welcome. And so a lot of them were trying to figure out other ways to not have to come. But those that do come, it's because there's nowhere else safe for them to go. At least if they're in U.S. soil, they're hoping that they won't be murdered by a gang or something. But now we have ICE that's a gang. And so I just feel like it's a last resort, clearly, for them.
Yeah, death is the alternative. And apparently it is now here as well. So speaking of Customs and Border Patrol, we had discussed in an earlier episode of Mueller, she wrote that we've been seeing recruitment advertisements for Customs and Border Patrol. Do you remember these? Commercials on TV.
The ridiculous commercials, yeah.
And we talked about how chilling that was and how weird that was. But I hadn't considered who was behind the ads or how they felt about it. Well, now we know, because a recording of a conference call hosted by the CEO of Ogilvy Worldwide, which is an ad agency founded in 1850 that was an iconic part of the Mad Men era. They've represented some of the biggest brands, including Boeing, Coca-Cola, Marlboro, British Petroleum, and the like. And
not the best
this is not
group.
A good roster.
Yeah.
But that's actually how the CEO opened the call, because there's been a lot of concern in his company about representing and selling ads for recruitment for the Border Patrol with what's considered their concentration camps and what's going on at the border. And they don't want to be tied to that. But that's how the CEO opened the call. He's like, first he made sure everyone knew his first wife was Mexican-American.
Oh, okay.
And that his sons were half Mexican.
Noted.
And then he launched into a bunch of other brands that they've sold ads for that are completely assholes. British Petroleum had the terrible explosion, killed a bunch of people. They're ruining the planet. Coke makes people obese. Boeing killed hundreds of people with their Max 8.
Yeah.
Was it Max
and
7,
Boeing
Max
is
8?
super racist.
Yep. They sold ads for big tobacco, all arguably dangerous products. But now many of these employees are expressing anger that their firm is working for Trump's Border Patrol. And BuzzFeed has the transcript of the phone call. But the gist of it is the CEO saying the contract is a prestigious one, and it's a $12.5 million piece of business. But the employees aren't having it. One said, So we're all willing to work with companies that sell big tobacco. We're willing to work with companies that contribute to obesity rates. And I guess what I'm mostly hearing is now we're willing to work with companies that are allowing children to die.
Yeah,
And
that's where we are.
And the CEO said, and so my view is that our work is not the problem. I don't believe at the heart of CBP it's intended to be a bad organization and do harm to people, but I also feel that it's overwhelmed with the challenges it faces and it's not performing well. Some other comments from employees during the call include, this is about people, it's not about money. That line got a lot of applause during a conference call. I never hear that. Another one said, I'm not sure what our values are anymore. Many were concerned about associating their good names with the Ogilvy name, if it's going to be known as an agency that sold ads to the Border Patrol.
Wow.
Which is now widely, as we said, associated with the deaths of children in horrific conditions.
So people are starting to
concentration
give a fuck, even those that are involved, have a big stake in this financially.
Yeah, it's almost like I was kind of cool with tobacco. I was kind of cool with this. I was kind of cool with the oil companies. I am not cool. I have to draw a line. I am not cool with this. And this is a lot of the employees, too. It's not just one or two. But, the CEO tried to maintain their contract was far removed from the crisis and suggested that employees who could no longer defend the company should leave. And he also argued that they were, sound familiar?
Right.
That they were trying to help CBP recruit more diverse candidates and that they could help solve the situation.
Okay.
But the feeling from the employees was that this was broader than those considerations, and they can't separate their values out like that. They're like, I'm having a really hard time towing this line here because I have to put my name with your company name next to it. And if we go down in history as the company that helped recruit, would you want to be associated with the advertising agency that helped recruit SS officers?
Right.
No.
And thankfully not. I mean, I'm glad they have a moral line. I also want to say that line about recruiting diverse people to solve the problem reminds me of that hashtag IceBay. Have you guys seen this? Mm-mm. It's like a Latina employee of Border Patrol who's really attractive. Yeah. And they're saying this is good for them. And a lot of Republican, I think politicians were giving her a shout out or something. Or just talking heads, and it was just so gross to think that was something that they were yeah, see, I don't know, made me feel really gross. Can't quite put my finger on it.
Yeah, it is. It is, and I just think it's interesting that this is the line, and that's a pretty to feel okay about all those other things and not this, I think speaks volumes to the problem that this is and the feelings that people have about it.
Mm-hmm. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I do think, though, that ideally in a better world, that is not the one that we live in right now, those statements would be things that would be regarded positively, right? Wanting to, that's a huge issue that we have with law enforcement in general.
Oh, sure.
Yeah,
but to
people
solve
not
the
reflecting
problem,
the communities that they're serving.
Sure. I think of tokenism every time, initially, because I think that's just where their state of mind.
Yeah.
Well, justify your $13 million by saying maybe we can fix it by hiring more brown people.
Right. It seems a little
obviously it's all very muddy. I just think that sometimes we have to be really intentional with exactly what we criticize at the point that we criticize it, because do we really stand to gain much right now from immediately completely trashing that concept?
I will say this. I totally get where you're coming from, and I agree with you. I feel like it's important, though, to point out that the problem shouldn't be solved by just bringing more brown people in. It should be solved by the people that are already there fixing it, right? That's what I mean.
But they're not. But so many of them are awful.
They are. So yeah, they should be fired.
So
but
this whole point to sorry to talk over you.
No, you're right. I think that we can't expect those people to just solve the problem based on their good nature because they don't seem to have any. So you would replace them with anyone that would solve that problem. But to say that we need brown people specifically, I get that on a perspective level, that seems helpful. But coming from them, I'm suspicious.
Totally. I completely agree. And I completely agree that their roster is very, it's everything about it is I don't know how I feel about this, and I think that we're right to be critical of it, but I also think sometimes we need to just be careful to sort of isolate maybe I'm whatever, fuck that company, I'm down to say that, fuck that group,
for
right?
Sure, yeah,
but the principle of it, just attacking that exact principle, I think that's a principle we need to apply to law enforcement everywhere all the time.
Totally. And I'll just use an example, when Trump said that he was using the Voting Rights Act to justify their citizenship question. That is, you're using a good thing for a bad agenda. That's why I think the diversity thing, I agree, is good, but sometimes the people that suggest it are not thinking for the right reasons. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I think what you're getting at is that this concept of hiring a diverse workforce is great, but it doesn't exist in a vacuum. We have to consider the context of how it's being applied. And I think that, yes, we need to be careful not to attack the concept of having a diverse workforce. We need to attack the concept of the context in which they're trying to utilize the idea of having a diverse workforce.
Yes, well, and if they're going to
we need to make sure that that's separate.
Yes, and if it's some shitty company that's going to come in here and use that concept as a way to basically indoctrinate people of color potentially into like a very, very harmful and honestly like human rights
right?
violations.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
It's like very wrong. If they're going to use it to, like you said, tokenize people, but tokenize them to be used as pawns in something that's going to only hurt their community, 100% we should be skeptical of that.
Right, but that's not what you're saying. You obviously wouldn't be for that. So I'm glad that you brought that point out because we're all on the same page. But
Absolutely.
I think it's good.
The ideal scenario would be they could find a group that could truly stick to that and mean it sincerely.
I honestly think that they shouldn't be trying to diversify their workforce by using private ad agencies. They should diversify their workforce through hiring practices, proper vetting, and not only picking white people to work there.
Totally.
That's where I think that this needs to be fixed, and I think that needs to be addressed through the Congress, not an ad agency, not a private ad agency.
I agree. Private companies,
right,
always a thumbs down. always a thumbs down on private companies.
But there are companies that do good, but we need to make sure that we're not attacking the idea of having a diverse workforce while we are simultaneously bringing up the context of this situation.
Yeah, I appreciate that shit, Jordan.
Yeah.
And I think here's what stood out to me the most, you guys, was after the CEO went on a diatribe about all the products that they've peddled that have killed people. He said this. He said, quote, "There's almost no client who walks a perfect line of doing nothing but good for the world. So we make these choices every day." And I'm like, well, that's the root of the problem, is that these corporations are selling products that kill people, or, even if the product is a job at CBP that ends up killing people, whatever it is, that are dangerous to people, dangerous to the planet, unsustainable. That is what we should be worried about, not whether or not these guys take the contract or the diversity of the workforce. I mean, we need to be worried about that workforce is
And what
diverse,
was that
don't
line
get me
again?
wrong.
Was it basically saying that no one's perfect?
Yeah, no client. There's almost no client who walks a perfect line of doing nothing but good for the world. That's the problem. There should be more of those.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And that's such an easy thing to say, to excuse your behavior. That's like incredibly harmful.
Everybody's an asshole that tries to make money. So basically what he's saying here is consumerism is evil and corporations kill people. And we're like, yeah, and that's the problem.
Corporations kill people, my friend. That's the new Romney quote now.
I do also believe, though, that we're unfortunately a culture of monopolies. And so if this group has a monopoly over that sort of work, then there is a possibility that there's a branch of people that could do a decent job. But again, the skepticism, I think, is very well founded. And it's like, I don't know, dude, get a fucking focus group together or something of like Congress women or like some people that can have a better track record of actually advocating for humans.
For sure.
Yeah. And yeah, that last line struck me. Basically, he's saying we advertise for corporations all the time that are evil.
It's like
What's
great
the big deal?
argument.
Yeah. Cool
And
story,
then I
bro.
just imagine like people going, I gotta get the fuck out of this job. You know, like, oh my God, I am contributing to so much. And then like that, if I heard that during a conference call, I would have seriously been questioning my position on the planet and what I'm doing to either help others or promote sustainability or do good.
Yeah.
Not do well, but do good.
Yes.
And he just basically told me what I do for a living is soul sucking, and you're going to hell.
I also think it's interesting that I like to use the argument that no one's perfect in a lot of like moral conversations. So I kind of think that's why it works, is because technically they're right, but we should aspire to be better. That shouldn't be the motto of the company.
But when you and I, when we make errors, when blue collar folks, when regular Americans who care about other people and do service and do good, make errors, it's not to make money at the expense of another human being or an environment or something like that.
Right.
When we mess up, it's a mistake. It's a little different. And yes, nobody's perfect. This is intentional. advertising, intentionally trying to get kids to smoke.
Right, like
intentionally try. You know what I mean?
like good and bad. They're things that are relative, but they're important. And
when
this
you
is their
attach money
stance
to
on
it.
that. Yeah, this is them basically throwing their hands up, saying we have no qualms with evil people.
Yeah,
and
or
that's crazy.
or
to me.
money is more important to me
Yeah.
than these considerations.
For sure.
We make these terrible choices every day, but hey, look, we
They're
got
not even
money.
hiding it.
No.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Or I guess this conversation probably wasn't meant to be on this podcast.
No, it sure was.
Oh, okay,
I wanted to talk about that.
I meant
thought
like no, in terms of was this a private conversation that was recorded and then leaked, or how did?
Oh yeah, somebody
Oh.
in the company recorded the entire conference call. The transcript of it is on BuzzFeed. You should really read it. It's quite sobering.
Well, I'm glad
hear
they
someone defend
finally,
it.
I'm glad they finally had some issue that their company was representing, that they started thinking, I don't know if I want to be a part of this. But like you said, the list of the people that they represent and do ads for, it's like,
Not a great bunch of.
no, this is just so
yeah.
incredibly explicit because it is pretty much impossible to deny the realities of what's happening at the border right
For
now,
sure.
unless you are actively just lying to yourself.
And a lot of the employees on a lot of their message boards are suggesting they put together petitions like Wayfair did. They've got about 40 employees that signed on as of July 8th is when this conference call was and the news broke or whatever. But yeah, they're thinking of doing a Wayfair type situation because basically what happened with Wayfair is employees found out that they were selling beds to concentration camps, and they were like, we don't want any part of that. I thought it was a little weird because you'd want them to have beds, but they were making profit off of.
It's like
Yeah.
the
the
humanitarian
concentration
aid budget. It's like you're really putting them in a corner there.
If
Yeah.
if Wayfair's donating beds, right on. But if
Yeah.
you're making money off of the incarceration and detention of children in concentration camps in deplorable conditions, that is where the problem
And they did end
exists.
up donating, I believe, money to the cause, right, to the kids.
I hope so.
That's what I read. I don't remember.
If you read that,
exactly.
that's probably
Yeah,
real.
and
I think they did end up making a donation because they were like, "Ah, fuck, this is
they felt
this isn't a good look."
complicit. Yeah, I would also say that I think it's really, like, I've heard some stories about Border Patrol agents who have tried to report these things, and they said that they were like pretty much shunned. Similar to like the police force, like they look out for each other. So if you turn on them, like they do everything they can to.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So some people have
Well,
tried, but they're out already.
Yeah, well, and a lot of stuff is a numbers game, especially because these are still like largely blue collar jobs, like at the border. So it effectively, in my mind, is if you get enough people at the border that will stand up against the atrocities that are happening, stuff is going to start changing.
Totally.
And we don't have open borders. We're never going to have open borders. We're a country that's defined by nationalism. That's always going to be a thing. So, like...
But they're battling against that Milgram experiment. They're battling against their own psychology that urges them to participate in the torture and detention of other people. We saw it in Abu Ghraib. We saw it in the Milgram experiments. It's a well-documented thing that we can't study anymore because it's totally unethical to do so. But I think that's also something that they really have to. That's an uphill battle.
Right.
Yeah.
And I will also say, do you really believe that we'll always be nationalists? Because we weren't always nationalists, right? Like,
100% we were.
technically, I'm just probably wrong about this, but my brain makes me think about the Quakers or the colonizers coming, and they were like still loyal to, the other nation, and then they made a nation. So you're saying from that point on they were nationalists, but the concept of like the origins of people.
It was pretty
really
quick. It was less than 100 years before
Yeah.
they started pretty much exterminating
Yeah, exactly.
the native populations and revolting against the
Right. So
motherland.
they've always been assles. I agree with you on that.
Yeah,
But
I
there's
think the
always been
no.
a USA. I think there's only a
Yes.
certain amount of years that we've not been at war in this country.
Yeah.
We're a very
I mean,
national,
things do change though,
warlike,
right? Like-
I don't think in our country's history we've had a time when we weren't nationalist.
I agree.
And you just don't believe, even though you would prefer it be different, you don't believe that we're capable of changing.
I don't think we will ever have a society that has open borders. I don't
Okay.
think America will ever be
Okay,
like that.
yeah. Well, I mean, on a scale of open borders to nationalist, there might be some wiggle room.
Sure,
in there,
sure.
But
Yes.
yeah, that is a long time away. I think we need to wait for the baby boomers and probably Gen X to shuffle off this mortal coil before we can even see, like this new. And Obama talked about it. This wave of youth and progressiveness and awesomeness that's going to wash over the country, and that could lead toward an ending of nationalism, but to getting to open borders is
Yeah,
Right.
it might end us too.
Long
I think
way
that
away.
might be global warming just washing away all our problems.
Yeah,
we'll
but
go
I-
down with it.
But I totally get what you're saying too. Like going to Philly this weekend was really eye-opening, right? Because we saw all of this like Quaker Identity history, and there are so many just like brilliant philosophical concepts that came from that were bred from freedom and religious freedom.
Totally. And then escaping persecution.
Yes,
and
but then the obvious irony, like you said, is that we almost immediately came over and just started taking away people's indigenous land from them and killing them. So it's like, I can't say that with any amount of seriousness that our country was truly founded on those ideals, because those people and whatever.
Because they said all men are created equal, but that wasn't.
They weren't thinking of anyone at this table.
Right. And yeah. Yeah, that's true. We all have vaginas, womp womp.
Right?
Nope.
Yeah.
You only got 3/5 out of it.
That's so true. And I'm gay. This is not looking good.
But yeah, but no, I appreciate what you're saying. And I was very moved and inspired by our trip to Philly and seeing all of those quotes that are on buildings, and like there was like a Jewish history museum that had something that was basically, you know, just like equality applies to all, and everyone falls under that ideal. But it's like, as much as that's inspiring to see,
in reality,
yeah,
it's
like
very
the
different.
blatant, it's like, oh well, yeah, I am proud to be an American, and then you think of like what
that
transpired
means.
almost immediately after.
Totally.
And it's,
Yeah, but I think that the key words in that entire era are a more perfect union, which is grammatically incorrect, but correct as far as what we were trying to do.
Yeah, a
Yeah.
mo better
Which
union.
is, we aren't perfect. Y'all aren't perfect. We're not perfect. This is a constitution that's amendable. It needs to be fixed. There will be changes. We've seen how it is when it's locked down and it doesn't work. We need to have things be more malleable, and we need to be better, and we can always be better. We know there's things that we do that aren't great. They couldn't put their finger on what it was at the time. We can only look back and go, it's exactly this.
Yeah, the slavery thing,
Yeah.
definitely. But okay, go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah, I will say though that there are like countries like Germany that have come to such awful, grotesque, you know, manifestations of nationalism and managed to come back and actually be very inspirational in their morality. So I
There's
think
hope.
I appreciate that, and it is
After the
better to
Holocaust.
believe. Yeah, after
We gotta reach
we
that
just have to
boiling
go
point.
through a Holocaust, apparently, right?
guess
and that's
so.
like it's
Hopefully
So we
not.
have a couple.
Yeah. Oh, you're right. There's been
Japanese
multiple.
internment. We had slavery. We had the eradication of Native people. Like
Right.
we're on Holocaust 4.0 right now.
Yeah, and that's why I believe that human nature is to be imperfect, right? But to aspire to be like a more perfect person is what I think is like, it's what makes us human at the same time, right? Or maybe
Yeah, like we had a few drinks after the meet and greet. We're walking around. We stumble across, I think we almost tripped over Benjamin Franklin's grave. And and we're sitting there like, yeah, he was the dude. But you think about all the, you know, the women and young girls that he purchased while visiting France. And you're like, okay, maybe he had some issues.
right?
But I really liked his idea.
yeah.
Yeah, I just think.
Go ahead.
I just think it's like, I guess coming full circle with that quote from the company, it's like, yeah, we are not going to be purely good, but if we aspire to be better, I think that's the goal, as opposed to just settling for, well, shit happens. It's like, no, try
Yeah,
harder.
or as for selling, okay, we're an ad agency and no company is perfect. Every company that makes money tries to kill people or is successful at it if that's not their goal at the onset, and we have to make money too. So
yeah, it
yeah.
seems pretty lazy to me. Yeah.
And since they are obviously so money grubbing as a company, I can't imagine that they're thinking, "Oh, California or Customs and Border Protection. This is going to be great for our pocketbooks." Which it is in I mean, that's a huge contract, obviously, but in terms of like sustainability of like brand
Well,
and
somebody brought up the cost benefit analysis, and if you think about it, and yeah, we're making $12.5 million, but what do we stand to lose in future ad sales by putting our name with
Exactly.
Customs and Border
Totally,
Patrol?
because times will change. I'm a
It's-
big believer
which
in that.
makes me
yeah.
It's
think
incalculable.
why
It's incalculable.
Right. Yeah, and it's like, well, then why do you
Allowable.
want to even do that? And that becomes a very skeptical, you know.
Yep,
point
longevity of your company's at stake.
And
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
been shown, studies have shown that when you give and you donate and you're charitable, you get it back 10 times. So keep that in mind moving forward.
It's a good note.
Hope
Yeah.
maybe Ogilvy will maybe they'll oust their CEO, put somebody in there that's got some scruples and will only advertise for companies that do good things.
Yes,
And
yes.
that would be what I would do. I would say, everybody, we're getting a whole new board. I'm in charge now. Don't fuck with me, fellas. I would pull a
Yes.
whole dynasty thing.
Right?
And then I would say, I own controlling interest in Denver Carrington. No.
Yeah, like we won't cop out and just assume that anybody in that position will be corrupt. I believe that people can
And-
be good or aspire to be good their whole lives.
And
their
then
whole
we can be the ad agency that only works with or doesn't work with corrupt corporations. We only work with corporations that have a positive happiness index or whatever the fuck they measure awesomeness by, or goodwill. And that way other companies would be like, I want to advertise with them because they aren't attached to the Border Patrol. They aren't attached to big tobacco. They aren't attached to
values
these
are marketable too. If money is that important to you, then think of it that way.
And it was like Don Draper, when he wrote that full-page New York Times ad in Mad Men about not wanting to sell tobacco anymore and getting away from it and getting away from our values and stuff. And then you find out a couple episodes later he only did that to make money. And you're like, ugh.
Right? But some people get turned off by that and you lose.
But I think you can have a win-win scenario.
You can.
I think you can. And I think that's, if I were in charge of Ogilvy, that's where I would be headed.
Totally. Just give a fuck. I don't know why it's so hard for some people. I mean, I guess because the world's really depressing.
Yeah, well, they had a share Coke campaign, so now they can sleep at night.
Oh, yeah, I guess
they're propagating goodness in the world.
Totally.
but back then, who did?
Coke. I'm thinking that the share of Coke.
Oh, in Mad Men?
Yeah. They're like, in the real life.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
in the real life.
Yeah, because during Mad Men era, when he did that, I want to buy the world a Coke and teach it harmony and all that other stuff. And he's sitting there doing yoga at the retreat, and you're like, are you doing this because you're awesome, or are you doing this because you want money?
Interesting. Could be both.
And you have to but that's what a win-win situation is,
totally.
Right? But back then we didn't know Coke cost.
Yeah, be awesome, make money. I'm all for capitalism. I mean, I get that it's like the kind of beast that eats itself eventually.
But you can make a shitload of money off of doing good things.
You totally
that's
can.
what Rick Perry was stunned to learn. He could make $1 zillion with wind energy in Texas.
Yeah, and he's smarter with glasses. He learned a lot.
He's smarter with glasses, but nothing beats the Dancing on the Stars with his barbershop quartet pinstripe vest.
He was on Dancing with the Stars.
He was. You didn't know?
No.
Dude.
How far did he go?
I don't know.
Oh, it was like a whole... Oh, how far did he go in the competition?
He skipped across the stage at least once.
I think just the one performance, because I've only seen that clip.
You should see the arms up like this, like doing Chris Farley.
Oh, he's in it. Yeah, he's all in.
Why?
Yeah,
okay, the fact that a politician is considered a celebrity is the very issue with our entire...
Well, I like AOC. I feel like some people are celebrities for the right reason. Rick Perry is not one of them.
That's so true. I think, he's a weird guy. But even he found money in wind energy, and that's a win-win situation.
A win-win, huh?
Win-win situation. Nice. That's a
good one.
Contender for an episode title. Keeper. It's a win-win situation. I like it. Good job, Jaleesa.
That's all alley hooping.
Last minute stuff. Natasha Bertrand released a story in Politico that Nunes met with Trump to talk about replacing Dan Coats and who to replace him with. Dan Coats, the intel chief, director of national intelligence. 3 people familiar with the meeting told Natasha this, told Politico this. Nunes, as we know, was on the transition team. He had to recuse as House Intelligence Committee chair for a while because of his midnight run to the White House in March of 2017. Saying he got classified information, which he said he got from whistleblowers, but likely came from the Trump team, indicating that Obama wiretapped Trump, which was never found to be true. And then, of course, he wrote that stupid memo. But that's Nunes. We know him well here from our time at Mueller, she wrote.
Yeah, wish we didn't, but he exists.
It'd be nice.
He's becoming increasingly irrelevant, which is a nice fall from conservative grace.
But that's because shit's getting crazier.
He's helping decide who's going to be our intel chief.
I had assumed that this was something that had happened in the past.
No, it's this one today.
This is like
this
recent.
Is this week.
Oh, man.
And last minute, this is cool. You guys are going to like this. Remember when we found out Vice President Pence was on his way to New Hampshire to speak at a rehab center for heroin addicts, and he got grounded, not like grounded, you're in trouble, but like his plane got grounded, Air Force poop. And he was told to return to the White House immediately. Right around that time, Trump was doing a tweet tantrum about I think it was Tish James and his Trump Foundation investigation. And everyone was like, is it connected to that? It was also right around the time they sealed the indictment for Epstein. So everyone was like, maybe it's that.
Or Iran. There was some shit going down with Iran that week.
So here's what really happened. Apparently, the chief of business development for Granite Recovery Centers, where he was going to go speak, was charged with dealing fentanyl. So they had to cancel his appearance and brought him back to the White House.
Rehab event.
The rehab.
Holy
shit. The chief of business development at the rehab center was busted for dealing fentanyl.
I mean, that is profitable.
That's, if you're going to do some shady shit, that's how you do it. It's like the worst of people with, like, I guess, really clever ideas. You know, like, because when you think about it, like, I mean, that's the supply.
There was what was the show? Was it Animaniacs or Tiny Toons, they had a good idea, bad idea.
Right. This is like bad idea. But I guess clever.
Good
clever
idea.
but bad.
Good
Yes.
idea. Optimizing your skills to make money. Bad
Totally.
idea. By dealing fentanyl at a heroin rehab.
Exactly. Because I would assume that you look for people that are fiending and you take advantage of them in that position of being in rehab. I've heard about people dealing drugs to people in rehab. And so
Absolutely.
that's insanity.
Oh yeah,
The guy in
100%.
charge.
Wherever there are drug users, whatever institution it is, there are going to be drug dealers.
Well, it's
That
like,
is-
but there's good ways you can exercise this intelligence, like by selling Girl Scout cookies outside of dispensaries. You know,
Sure.
use it for good.
That's so sweet and cute and smart. Yeah. Like, I would love that.
You know, you can.
Yeah.
Fentanyl's a more direct, expedited way to be unhealthy, but
Yeah, fentanyl
Girl
is
Scout cookies.
terrifying.
that's not too bad.
Yeah, so many
Yeah.
people. One of my favorite rappers, Mac Miller, died of it, and it's like so many people. Like it happens so easily. I think just a small amount of it is lethal, right?
Yeah, and the
One
Border
of those-
Patrol right now is
Yeah.
storing about 2,500 pounds of it, enough fentanyl to kill
800 million
people or
people.
something like that.
I heard about that. So they're storing that as evidence.
I think it's
they're
evidence from
confiscating
seizures.
it.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
they
and
can
they're
get-
selling it to the rehab guy.
I hope not. But we did have a very important conversation where I did speak to a couple doctors. You can't overdose on fentanyl just by touching it or touching someone who's overdosing. These are sort of fear-mongering tactics
Oh,
and
I've
things
never
like
even
that.
heard that.
Right,
People are
it's not like
saying that?
lead or something. You have to consume it through like smoking
You have to
or
inhale it or put
drinking.
it into your blood.
Yeah.
And so it's pretty much as safe to store and handle as like heroin
Yeah.
or cocaine.
Right, but if you are, why? That's always my question.
Well, and we had this discussion too on Twitter. Like, why are you storing that for evidence? Why do you have to cart out a bunch of drugs into a courtroom to prove that somebody had them? Take a picture and write a report. Fucking
It'll
destroy
last
the
longer.
shit. I don't understand. Take a picture to last longer.
Right.
Yeah,
I know some people-
there's a lot. Sorry.
I was going to say they have like fentanyl patches that people use, but even those are addictive. I see people wearing like multiple patches, and I'm like, that's not good either. Maybe we shouldn't be giving people fucking fentanyl.
Well, fentanyl's for people who need it. It's
Yeah?
really great.
Yeah.
So we just have to be able to regulate it more.
Right.
And stuff like that.
They
I
were
just
just
didn't want
pushing
anybody
it.
to fearmonger that because people were thinking that the Border Patrol, the people running concentration camps have this lethal drug and they were going to
they're gonna come
aerosol
and
it
like
and
LeBron James it all over everyone.
For sure.
oh God. Yeah, just walk in. We are all witnesses. But no, yeah. So it's you
Yeah, if
can't
they
get
need it,
from
they need it.
touching.
Right.
They don't need it, but people who are prescribed it rightfully and legally need it. And yes, and we can't take it away from them. We shouldn't get rid of it at all.
Right.
I just don't think the Border Patrol should be storing and handling this, particularly with a lack of leadership that they have right now. They're inexperienced. They haven't been vetted. They took a lot of rules away to hire Border Patrol people
For
in
sure,
the first place.
the speed limit. And I also think that doctors have been paid to overprescribe it. So even if someone, quote unquote, needs it, they may not need so much of it. And then the patient.
We can have a discussion about
Totally.
about that.
That's, I guess,
Like
what
a
I was
whole
saying,
other
but
thing.
you're right. That's a totally different. Yeah.
I also think each jurisdiction has a separate set of rules on how they're allowed to like store drugs or if they're allowed to, start researching it and stuff. And I think because I know we used to do like drug seizures at the entry gates for concerts, and it was strictly a harm reduction thing. So we would just take the drugs and let them back into the concert.
Yep.
But then at the end of each night, each different local police department had a different set of protocols. Like some of them were like, you guys have to just destroy the drugs. We're not allowed to even touch them. Other people were like, oh, we take them and we study them. I don't know what CBP does with them.
Yeah, this is federal jurisdiction. They have rules for when you see something, whether it's money or drugs or guns or whatever, you have to keep it for evidence at trial, and then you have to keep it for a certain amount of time after the trial is over.
So it's a
et
trial
cetera.
thing. It's not like they're using
Yeah,
it to.
it's an
They're not
evidence thing.
studying it or anything.
No,
Who
in
knows,
fact, it's
right?
illegal for the United States government to study anything that's on a schedule.
Yeah.
That's why the VA can't do studies for marijuana,
Yeah.
and that's why. So
That sucks.
Yeah, that old chestnut.
Yeah. That's another podcast, too. Muller, She Tokes.
yeah. Oh, there you
Side
go.
project, yeah.
Side project. Get it going. All right, guys, that's the show. That's the Daily Beans for this Tuesday morning. We hope you enjoyed it. If you have any recommendations or you want to hear anything different or you want to hear something that we haven't talked about, just send them to us at we're at tips@thedailybeanspod.com. And we will be happy to pick those up and read them. And if you want to remain anonymous, let us know, because otherwise we assume unless you say you want to be anonymous, that we're allowed to shout out your name.
For sure. And then just one last thing. I don't think everyone in Louisiana is racist. I guess I should probably make that clear, because some people want us to go there, and I really do love Louisiana, but it was also very racist in certain areas.
Yeah,
Can't deny that.
There's just
Yeah.
going to be some states and some cities that have a little higher concentrations of racists. I know in
yeah.
Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, that's like the headquarters for white supremacy and white power groups. And but that doesn't make Idaho a bad place. That's just some assholes got to live somewhere.
Yeah.
That is so funny. And
Pretty
true.
much the entirety of Nevada where I grew up, with the exception of Las Vegas, and then 50% of that is racist. So.
Damn.
I think what's great is that in every city, in every town, and in every state in this country, there are awesome people, and that's who we rely on, and that's who we want to reach out to, and that's who we need to support and hold up. So
Totally.
not hold up like Rob, but like
Right. We're not trying to convert, but
lift
I
up,
guess if we
elevate.
do convert a racist to be a non-racist, that'd be dope.
That would be cool.
Email
And
us.
there are ex-skinheads who are out there trying to, that have changed
Yeah.
their ways and are trying to help youths
That's what we
not
need
go
to-
down that path.
The anti-racist sort of missionaries
Like the white
only
alleys that
exist
you
as like
referenced? Yeah.
Christians, allegedly. So we need some freaking secular anti-racist door knockers.
That'd be
we
cool.
call them
There you go.
Democrats.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, there's some racist Democrats out there, and they hide behind
Yeah.
being Democrats, and that's like the worst. They won't even like admit that they have a Confederate flag under their
You're
belt.
right. I am generalizing.
Yeah, but I
True,
get
but we'll
it,
start
yeah.
with the bigger demographic that is the problem.
for sure. We're not
Totally.
gonna all lives matter.
All right, guys, hit us up if you have any questions or concerns, or you want to hear anything. And we do have a corrections, too, if you want to give us a correction if we made any errors, because we do. Just head to thedailybeanspod.com, and that will take you to the joint site of Mueller, She Wrote, and the Daily Beans. You're going to click Contact, and then you're going to click Select. You're going to select Corrections. And then you fill out that form, build us a compliment sandwich, and we'll get it right eventually. Thank you so much. Please, guys, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and we'll see what Mueller has tomorrow. I've been AG.
I've been Jaleesa Johnson.
I've been Jordan Coburn.
And them's the beans. The Daily Beans is produced by AG, featuring Jaleesa Johnson and Jordan Coburn, and engineered and edited by Mackenzie Mazzell and Starburns Industries. Our marketing manager is Sarah Lee Steiner, and our merchandising manager is Sarah Hirschberger Valencia. Fact-checking and research by AG, Jaleesa Johnson, and Jordan Coburn, with executive assistance by Amanda Reeder. Our music is written and performed by They Might Be Giants. Our web design and branding are by Joelle Reeder with Moxie Design Studios, and our website is dailybeanspod.com.